Yeah, almost every single week I'm reading a new article about how AI is going to destroy white collar jobs. SaaS is dead. Panic time to panic because all software companies, traditional companies, are going to go away. It's going to be all AI all the time. Agents everywhere doing everything. But I don't really think that's the case. And as you probably guess, I probably need a little more time to sort of discuss what my thoughts are on this because short of 1 minute, 2 minute video probably isn't going to really work here. But what I really want to get into is how people really sort of thinking about AI, what I really believe is in the sort of wrong way. A lot of people who are naysayers as well as people who are sort of promoters are really comparing this to sort of dot-com boom, where basically you have this sort of new technology and people sort of building on top of constantly, and it's going to get out there and make everything great. And I don't really think that's the case in either direction. Under the dot-com boom, the people who were sort of doomed there talking about people like pets.com and how a lot of the sort of underlying infrastructure did not exist to sort of handle what these companies are trying to do, and how AI companies are trying to build out all this additional infrastructure to try and prevent that from occurring to them. But before I press on, I probably should do the obligatory appeal to authority that everyone does, and all these sort of talk. People should talk about the credentials to try and make you like them a little bit more. And my appeal to authority is I've been a software developer for about 15 years or so, a tech lead for about 8, mostly working in a lot of very startup environments, working in things like e-commerce, digital advertising, as well as the news media space. So I've been around the block quite a bit, and sort of I've seen technology change over time, and myself having to adapt to these new technologies. And the big argument you see from a lot of these posts talking about AI in more general is how it's going to destroy the SaaS business, how you can sort of vibe code any SaaS product. And I think this really misses two big things there. One, software as a service is not 100% about that particular product. It's about the fact that you have someone who continuously can maintain it. That's not you're not sort of paying directly for. It's the economies of scale that you sort of get from these SaaS companies maintaining things, like Salesforce maintaining currency conversion on their side, so you don't have someone on your team or even an AI having to try and figure out that this currency changed on this date. They'll do all that for you. And one of the other things that I really see is the sort of other problem is that people are overestimating how much gain it's going to be doing for people. Now, I use a lot of these tools on a daily basis, a lot of sort of coding tools in my sort of daily workflows. And I would say it takes me about 25% of my time, which is a substantial amount of time. That's an insane increase in sort of time saved, but it's not going to, that's not sort of world changing. I'm more a senior engineer, and sort of more junior people, it's saving probably even less time than that because of the fact that you are now babysitting a tool that has a tendency of hallucinating and getting things wrong. And reality, what is happening is that the developing sort of job is going to shift into sort of a developer slash product person sort of role. So rather than having to think things out as you're doing it, you have to make sure you've pre-planned everything that you've thought out, and we're handing it off to these sort of tools. And as you sort of handing things off these tools and having them do it, and what it really means is that the job of a developer is going to shift the same way it has shifted in the past. And the one thing I want to talk about, the real big comparison to these AI tools, is not really the sort of dot-com era that people like to compare to. I would say the better comparison is Excel. If you don't know, Excel is a sort of miraculous sort of spreadsheet tool that was created. And it basically turned the jobs of various sort of accountants and other people, accountants, other folks, and allowed them to really change their workflow and really sort of streamline their business model. It helped with inventory management, helped with internal finance models, and really turns really slow and expensive things that people were doing and really sort of streamlined and made it a lot more powerful. And it became, from this sort of small tool, something that became essentially a table stakes for any sort of company, both small and big. And I do think that a lot of these AI tools will probably become very similar to that. Now, one of my sort of big fears coming out of this, as you can probably have guessing and me sort of comparing it to a single piece of software that's very sort of fundamentally changing, is the fact that I think a lot of these companies are spending far too much money on these sort of AI tooling. I do think that these tools themselves, while being a multi-billion-dollar product, they are treating it like it's a trillion-dollar product, which I really don't believe it is. I don't believe that I don't believe Excel never existed and it came out today. I don't think it'll be $1 trillion product. And that's really what this is, and to a large extent. It really sort of fundamentally changes what people are going to be doing on a day-to-day basis in order to get work done. Now, one of the most meaningful changes that I see happening because of this tooling is it's going to allow companies to do experimentation more quickly and sort of think about other things they can do in sort of A/B testing, as well as sort of multi-market testing of things, and really sort of allowing them to make a product that's a little more narrowly focused to a particular style of end user rather than making it as broad as possible. And I do think that this is going to be how SaaS is going to evolve over time. And sadly, at the end of the day, while the sort of larger companies like your Salesforces, your ServiceNows are going to stick around for a while, your Datadogs as well, I do think some of the services that are targeting a much more niche audience, a much more small niche audience, are going to go away because I think a lot of small businesses will be able to hire one person or even sort of outsource parts of that to maintain their sort of homegrown system that was sort of vibe coded up that only is for internal users and such. And so as we see the shift, not in the terms of the quantity of work, but the nature of the work, we're going to see a lot more of these sort of career specialists appear, who are people who can be very good at understanding both the development side, the engineering side, and the sort of the product side of things. You can even sort of see this occasionally now when like Anthropic sort of do this contest, and one of the big people who was working on something was someone who was a developer for 20 years and then went into cardiology and sort of was able to build something out. And the reason why is because he had both the development domain knowledge as well as the knowledge of his industry. And so being able to combine these two things, he can basically now right how to communicate through a product person into an engineer, could do all three layers by communicating his thoughts and ideas and what he wanted to do into one of his sort of AI tools, and then be able to use his engineering skills that he has gained over time to be able to actually fix and solve the problems that weren't being able to get done by the AI tool properly. So now it's time for the obligatory sort of future sci-fi future sort of statement of what I see it going to be. At the end of the day, what I'm seeing the sort of sci-fi future is that software engineering is going to become another skill that everyone's going to be forced to learn to some extent. So everyone's going to need to learn how to do some amount of development work so they can understand what's going wrong with the tools that they are creating via some of these AI sort of programs. So they can debug it and fix it themselves, as well as needing to have the knowledge in order to say, hey, you created some sort of massive security flaw, or you did something wrong here. Here's how you fix it. Let me sort of help and guide you. And so, while I think the doomsday scenario that everyone is predicting, that all this sort of jobs are going to go away, is overblown, I think that people are going to become much more generalist than anything else. And that's sort of the way I am seeing things right now. And those are my very, very long thoughts. Thank you very much. Give me a follow, like, whatever you have to do. Bye.